You're all right.
Yeah, we're live. Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. It's Friday. It's, let me just check. It's 11:30 and we are live. How are you all? How are you doing? Are you having a nice cup of tea or a cup of coffee? You've got yourself something special for Friday. Always.
Yeah. What did you have for breakfast?
I actually had a Danish pastry thing, which my wife bought me. So that was lovely. What did you have for breakfast this morning?
Haven't had anything for breakfast. Some of us are working.
Yeah, well, you know what you need.
No, not that. Not ever.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what you need on a Friday morning.
No, it isn't. No, please stop.
Why?
I'm not feeling it.
You're not feeling it?
No. Is anyone ever feeling that kind of soundtrack to the show?
According to a lot of the posts that go out on a daily basis, yes, a lot of them are. Because a lot of people say they get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, they go down the gym, they really hit on it. You know, they're banging on it right from the word go in the morning. In fact,
I'm really concerned about some of the phraseology that's coming out of your mouth this morning. Like,
really?
They're banging on it. Really? Oh, hi, Stephen.
Hi, Stephen. Well, you know what I mean. They're really up and with it.
They're really making their time as efficient as possible to really put in the effort for self-care before their general working day would otherwise swallow up that time.
That's what I meant. Yeah. But
I thought you said.
Actually, some of us, you know, find it quite difficult to get up in the mornings, especially at this time of year.
Actually, do you know what? Normally it would have affected me, and this year it doesn't seem to have affected me at all. I'm not struggling to get up because it's dark. Yeah. I'm struggling to get up because I don't want to get out of bed. Because we're being woken up a lot by small children, or because we keep leaving windows open and it's cold at night.
That's a very real problem. Very real problem. I have to say, I'm going to later. I'm going to send you something in the post, and you know what that is? A can of WD-40, because that chair is really beginning to.
What a long play joke that was. Long play. Actually, I have now descended to its lowest setting because something's broken in it, and every now and then it just starts descending.
Oh, really? That's terrible. Look, if anyone's watching that manufactures chairs, Odessa could do with a new chair. She doesn't want to buy it. I mean, she will model a new chair for you quite happily every Friday. But she does need a new chair. Is there any particular one that you want? Hi, Christina. Hi, Nadia. Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, we're well. Odessa's just feeling a little tired this morning.
I'm always tired, to be fair. We've had a sickness bug in the house, which doesn't help. And actually, contrary to what you say about the 5 a.m.ers, in the summer, I was getting up and out at 5 a.m. every morning because it was light and I could go and walk the dog, and actually felt 1,000 times better for doing it.
Oh, well, look, anyone can do it, can't they, in the summer? That's the thing. Anyone can do it in the summer. It's the people that do it.
Did you?
I get up early in the summer. I can't get up early at this time of year. It's just far too difficult.
I'm still getting up and that early.
I know someone, but I think he steals chairs. Interesting.
You think back of a van,
or does it? Perhaps he means that they make chairs out of steel. I mean that would.
I don't think that's what he means.
No?
Looking at the sentence structure there, I would assume that that's not in fact what he's talking about.
No. Well, there you go.
It's not all about the laughs, Graham. Okay.
Yeah, well, it is. In my book, it really is.
Good.
Yeah.
That's no.
Oh yeah. Let's go. This track. Can you guess what this track's actually called? That's what I want to know. Can you actually guess what this track's called?
Murdered Colleague.
Murdered Colleague. This one's called Feeding the Ducks. Why is it called Feeding the Ducks?
I couldn't even help you with that one.
There you go. Anyway, one of the things that I want us to discuss today.
Because apparently we sometimes have an agenda.
Yeah, I've got an agenda for today.
Uh-oh.
I have done a poll on polls today on LinkedIn. Lots of comments already because the topic of polls is really hotly debated. Now, already had thank you, Timothy, for some of your comments on my post today about polls. Some response back that LinkedIn are actually dealing with the issue of polls as they stand at the moment. They are changing the algorithm, and this track is called "I Steal Squeaky Chairs." I love that. Thank you for that, Christina. But they are going to change the algorithm so that people don't get polls all of the time. And also,
is it really that big of a deal? I don't actually think that it is. I think there are some people that are so aggravated by polls that they feel that's what they get. But what they are lacking is the ability to engage with so much diverse content that they wouldn't notice the high quantity of polls. I think it's actually some assembly is required, some effort is required on behalf of the person whose account it is. You can't complain that it's a poll thing. Hey, look, you know what? Polls always perform really well on a Friday, for starters. So, of course, you would poll. But actually, it is that instant audience participation. There's a lot of good things about polls. If you find them inane and you find them boring and you think that they're a waste of time, don't interact with them. Don't then go and comment on them to then say you don't want to see them because they're just going to be put into your feed. It makes no sense.
No, absolutely. Well, I did say this in part of the discussion. What I was saying was that one of the reasons LinkedIn has pushed polls is because people actually engage and comment on them. And I said, actually, for all of those people that are complaining, are you engaging and commenting on the posts where you actually like the content? Because if you're not doing that, then surely part of this is your fault.
I think so. I think it's the people who hate polls that have made it a problem. It's all your fault.
It's my fault.
No, it's all that audience, that particular part of LinkedIn that complain about polls is actually their fault. Because the more you interact with polls, the more people do it. And actually, because you interact with them and increasing the engagement on them, people are going to think that polls are more important and they're a better form of getting in touch with people. And they're just going to create more of them. It's a vicious cycle. If you don't want to see it, don't interact with it. It's very simple.
But you actually made my day there for a minute because I thought you were saying that it's my fault, and I would love it to be my fault.
I mean, you generating one as a minimum every day, because sometimes you've done more than one, and you creating them for clients as well, it does make you a big part of the problem.
I hope so. I really hope so.
I know, and it sort of worries me that you want to be that disruptive, but then it doesn't surprise me either.
No. I think it's really, really important. Polls are like wasps at a picnic. Yes, I can try to ignore them, but I can't. Yeah, who'd want to ignore wasps at a picnic? Wasps make a picnic much more fun. Tom, you should know that more than anybody because you like to get people up and dancing. If you get
what's that got to do with a wasp?
If you get wasps at a picnic, people have to get up. They have to move about. They start, and then what do you want to do? You want to dance once you get up. You know, you wouldn't want people just sat there eating a picnic. That's no fun at all. Get people up and dancing. Get some wasps there. Polls are great. Yeah. I do not want to see them and interact with them. Can a genius please collect... You said do not. Sorry, I do want to see them and interact with them. Can a genius please collect them in one tab? And I'd love to knock them out of the park on Sunday mornings. I think I know who that LinkedIn user is.
I love a poll. I love sharing my opinion. And if it's one that I don't want to engage with, I don't engage with it. It's very, very simple.
Yeah.
Like if there's a person who's really annoying you in your life and you haven't chosen to work with them as a long-term strategy for misery, then if you were getting on your nerves, you just ignore them and eventually they'll get the message and they'll disappear.
I just think that we haven't really seen the full creative experience of polls leveraged yet by people out there. I think I want to see more from polls, and that's again what I was absolutely do the SWAT. Do the SWAT. You know, you see, Tom will have that as a video by next week. His video editing is second to none.
I saw his content's is really good.
If you haven't seen, was it called Ding this week? Yeah, that was just absolutely tremendous. If you haven't spotted
that yet, it's nice to see him posting more. Love a bit more content.
It is. Go and check out Tom's Ding. I think. It was what? You're taking every
Hear
word that
it
comes.
back. Hear it back.
Yeah, you're taking every word that comes out of my
Not
mouth
every
and turning
word.
it into innuendo, which is
No, I wasn't. But if we're going to play innuendo bingo, let's play it properly. But
Oh.
no, I wasn't. You did actually just happen to plant that one.
I'd need to get a drink, wouldn't I? So that I can put it in my mouth and swallow.
Oh, look, here it is.
Addy, maybe they could do some sort of survey to see if people enjoy polls. Maybe some sort of poll. Yeah, that's been done. That has been done to death now. That's actually
what I complained about. So my post today was about streaming service versus the radio, and are you happy to be led? Based on the fact that LinkedIn have now put this stupid new feature in. Lots of other stupid features are available, where they want to ask you what you want to see in your feed by virtue of hashtags and stuff like that. And a lot of them aren't very intuitive. And the debate going on at the moment is that there's no AI behind it. So the actual system is not learning by the selections you make or the fact that you're not selecting that you need other options. And actually, what we want to see is something like that, is a tab or like a filter option to say, I only want to see content that's picture-based, or I only want to see video content, or I only want to see polls. I think the more that you can sort through, the more that you can choose and you can customize and personalize the feed that you have, I think the better. Like, for example, I would love to filter it by whether they're first, second, or third connections. I think that would be really useful in terms of there are people's content I want to see, but it's so mixed up in my feed, I'll never find it.
That's never, ever going to happen. And the reason it's never, ever going to happen is...
I'm just saying, look.
Because... Yeah, I'm just saying the reason that will never, ever happen is because then you'll miss out on some great content, which you wouldn't have seen because you have said, oh, I don't want...
No, hang on. That's not what I said, is it? Did I say that it's a fact of filtering out what you don't want to see? No, yeah. I said it was the positive filtering of things that you do want to see. For example, I have, if you've got 1,000 first connections, but your feed is everything that they commented on and everything they liked, that's great, but actually you want to see that individual's content. Therefore, I think more than hashtags and this is what I want to see based on what they've currently given us as an option, what I would like to see is I only want to see content from first connection, so I can catch up with everybody in there first and make sure I'm up to date with their content before I then start exploring others. That's why you can take a filter off, but I would like to have the filter option. I like control. Have you not learned this already?
Yeah, that's fair enough. I just think everybody needs to see everything. And then here's a really good way of filtering. If you don't like someone's content, just unfollow them. That
doesn't work.
Disconnect from them. In fact, just move to a different platform. Then you won't see them at all. There we go.
You need to calm down.
Poll. Do you think any of the apprentices can spell Arctic, ice capsules, penguins in the... yeah. Is that a poll?
I don't know. I feel like that was a mini rant. I feel like we've just had a mini insight into the head of Ray. We haven't got our usual pigeon detective in the audience. What's going on there?
Well, maybe we should invite him. Maybe we didn't do that. If you don't invite people, then things don't happen. I think we've got a great audience here, though. There's some fantastic people here.
It's nice that you all turned up. Thank you.
Yes, let's centre on what we have got as opposed to what we haven't got. So what's your opinions, folks, on polls? Do you think you're fed up to the back teeth of them? Do you think we need more of them? I've offered some alternative poll options this morning as well. Maybe just having, very simply, more options than 4 in a poll. Maybe that 5th option would just push it over the boundary to make it more exciting. Definitely for me, picture-based polls. Picture-based polls would like really, really make that.
But that's more. I think I feel like the audio and pictures, as fun as they would be, and as restrictive as the current format is, I feel like that's more for gamification. I now don't feel like that would be for anything other than having a bit of fun. I can't see how you would. I mean, like, obviously you're going to attempt it anyway. But if they give you a feature, you're just going to abuse it. But what I mean is that, like, if you were given audio clips, for example, what are you going to do? Like, guess the audio clip or guess the song or whatever else like that. I can't imagine that there's going to be any necessary business use for that other than hopefully making the type of poll a bit more interesting. But I can't see that there's a direct correlation between that and being more business-like.
Here's what Stephen's saying. I like polls, but other Eastern European natives are available. Get the dad jokes out early in the morning. There you go.
It's not that early anymore. We've all been up a long time.
I think I'd need to bring it back round to this though as well. There is good content and there is bad content. And ultimately, one of the things that I argued this morning on my post, and I like to think that I won the argument, is that why hate I've said it before so many times. Why hate the mechanism? Polling is just a mechanism. It's the same as video is just a mechanism. It's the same as writing with text is just a mechanism. Ultimately, for each of those types of mechanism that you can use to produce content on LinkedIn, you can either choose to use them well or you can use them badly. And it's down to the actual content. Yes, absolutely.
I think what we always talk about with clients, and actually when we're talking to people about the type of content in strategy meetings, is that you have to have a reason and an outcome for each of the suggestions. You have to have a follow-up. So if you're giving 4 options, you need to have an appropriate response to each of those options so that you are actually doing something with the data that you're collecting. I think what tends to irritate people, rather than the stupidity of the polling subject, is actually that then there's no follow-up. There doesn't seem to be any real reason. I'm happy to give my opinion because I've always got one. But if I can't see that there's a reason or that there's a benefit to doing so, that it is just for clickbait, I will not interact with that poll. Even if actually, I wouldn't mind telling you if I like tea or coffee, because they're the ones that tend to arise. No, hi, Jonathan. You're here.
No,
you're good. We're going to be here as long as it takes.
Jonathan, we're asking about polls. You must have an opinion on polls. You're an accountant.
Polls of the voting variety, though, just to clarify, based on Stephen's previous response.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's your opinion of polls on LinkedIn, Jonathan? We'd love to hear your opinion. I just think we need to center people's attention to the quality of content that they are producing via any given mechanism. I mean, look, I've seen people produce some posts this morning where it's a picture and some text, and it's just dreadful. It's absolutely dreadful. It means nothing. There's no conversation. There was no meaning behind what was written at all.
It's the boob selfies that I've started having a problem with. And I spoke to another writer earlier on this week.
Sorry, did you say boob selfies?
I said boob selfies.
My word.
Right. Okay.
I haven't done one of those yet. Can I do one next week?
Yes, but you have to give the audience a warning first.
Okay.
There's got to be a nudity warning. No, and it was it's obviously selfies, moving it on slightly to yet another type of content. Selfies for a lot of people are a really good touching base with their audience to kind of to be a bit more open, to kind of connect yourself with your brand and stuff like that. And what we're now finding is that, especially amongst women, I don't like to discriminate, but it's definitely amongst women, where the type of selfie being posted is one that is of a more provocative nature, should we say. And all that happens, as a result, you're baiting men by your physical appearance. Then you get crossed by the kind of attention that you attract, but you knew you were going to attract it. And then you end up with content for the next week about man-hating and why men should be more professional and why we keep getting harassed on social media. But what it then means is that for women who don't want to use selfies as a lead generation tool, because you're never going to get business out of it, you're just going to get harassment or more connections, and maybe that's the kind of person you want in your network. It means that people who would ordinarily just put a normal selfie up now feel like if it's not one of those, they shouldn't do it because that's clearly popular. Or that it completely throws them away from wanting to do a selfie at all, because then you're just jumping on the bandwagon and trying to imitate something for the sake of being popular. And that ends up being another issue people have with polls, is that you get polls of the same type because it did really well for one person, and now it's going to do well for you as well. And it lacks uniqueness, and it's just really irritating that we're now restricted in what we can put out there based on how poorly it's being used by others. And that's my little rant for the day.
Yeah, and I also understand.
Thanks, Stephen.
Yeah, and I also understand the other side of that, which is that some women would say, "Yeah, but hang on a minute. If I look good and I feel good, why shouldn't I post a good photo of myself?"
But what is the point of that selfie then?
Yeah.
What is the actual reason for doing it? If it's for brand visibility, fine, I can understand that. But, and I don't, do you know what? I've said it 1,000 times before. Women should be able to wear and express themselves in however they want. Fine. If you look good, of course that's the picture that you're going to want to share. Fine. But then don't penalize the type of attention that you get back in return, because it makes you feel unprofessional, or it makes you feel like you're not going to be taken seriously, because you have to be aware of what your perception is going to be should you dress in a particular way. I'm not against people wearing whatever they want. And obviously women's fashion is designed in a particular way. I'm just saying, don't then be surprised.
Oh, I don't know how Jonathan's managed to come up with this comment out of that conversation, but tax doesn't have to be taxing. I post a nugget of tax advice and then ask a question. He's really pushing on it. He does, apparently, and you can all go and look for Jonathan's posts. Every Thursday, he does a little poll. There we go. I won't turn down my femininity. I had to fight for it, so deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. That's a really interesting point. What are we lacking from LinkedIn in terms of content at the moment? What do you feel?
He's back.
Yay!
Detective is back.
That's Richard. Thanks for turning up. Yes, it is deep. Yeah, we're really getting into some good stuff. It's about polls this morning for any of you that have just joined in. It's about polls. If you have a look at my post this morning, I'm polling about polls. Are we just sick to death of them? Can we make them any better? Could we just be a bit more creative with our content, full stop? And then that just led into a conversation about there are other ways in which we're just getting uncreative or just lacking the imagination when it comes to content.
What kind of content other than polls, because I know that you really appreciate a good poll.
Yeah.
What do you think we are missing from LinkedIn in terms of what is stifling our creativity?
I do believe that there is a distinct lack of good discussion. And I try actually, and that's the reason for doing what I try and do with the polls every day, is actually try and lead discussion. And I think sometimes there's too much opinion, but not enough discussion on certain subjects. So I'd like to see more people actually opening up and bringing discussion and really getting it on. Yeah, singing accountants definitely is missing, etc. Really well. What a stupid world. Yeah, absolutely. I'd also say in terms of quality of content, video wise, I haven't seen quite so many sort of parody skits lately. So that's kind of disappeared.
Are you following the wrong people?
No,
are you perhaps not looking for them?
I am following the right people. I'm throwing that question out to other people. What do you think is missing in terms of content on LinkedIn at the moment? Is there a blandness that's sweeping over LinkedIn, which we need to eradicate by great content? And what should that content be looking like? The singing accountant. I'm sure the singing accountant is going to happen. Let's have a look at Richard's point. It's hard to pinpoint what's missing from LinkedIn. We tend not to notice missing things because we're too busy getting annoyed by what's in overabundance. I totally agree. That's what this whole conversation is about. Everybody's going, too many polls. But yeah, forget what there is. What isn't there? There must be.
Do you know what I'd like to see, thinking about this and given the audience that we have? I feel like when we look at, we always complain, again, talking about the overabundance. Absolutely. And maybe you're looking in the wrong place too, because I've seen quite a few of them. But what I think is really interesting is we talk about the overabundance of coaches, and we talk about people who say that they're LinkedIn experts and, accountants and all the other bits and pieces that are very well represented groups or sectors on LinkedIn. But things like musicians or people who work in childcare, for example, don't have so much of a reach here, because actually it seems like there isn't a type of content for them. So we all know that video content is good for dwell time, but not necessarily good in terms of what it actually produces in the way of engagement. So is it perhaps that we kind of have something in between? Is there an option for more musically related posts? Should they get better coverage? Is it, I think the acceptance of business related posts needs to change. I feel like we've we sort of tried to stop people talking about what they do as a day job, but it means then that people where all their content needs to be talked about is their day job, means potentially that we're losing people that just don't feel like they're being heard or represented at all.
I agree. LinkedIn isn't Facebook. Maybe it's because I'm a musician that I can be more open and authentic. I have to say, having spoken to some musicians this week, I agree. I think for people in the arts, that actually we do need to be more accepting of the fact that those are actually jobs.
Yeah.
All right. And 100%. Actually, I think we need more of that content on LinkedIn, and we need LinkedIn to push.
But that's
that
the
content.
arts anyway. That is the arts in general. The arts are so underrepresented and given so little attention. And I had this conversation with somebody I met yesterday who's a coach, and he, what we were sort of saying is that you're sort of taught in school that you have to be academic. So you're told to go into these really important positions. You're supposed to be going into real jobs, day jobs, university, that kind of thing. And anybody who was doing anything in the arts, so whether it was art or music or drama or whatever else like that, it was made to feel like more vocational, like you were somehow wasting your time, that you were underachieving. And actually, because we focus so much on academia, we've stripped people of their natural talents. We've stopped them from going into the jobs they would have been drawn into and not supported them to do those jobs well. And we've just tried to change their trajectory from what would have felt better and they probably would have been more successful and happier in. So I feel like as a whole, the arts are very poorly represented. You look at things like, if you follow, I do because I'm sad, the Royal Opera House, for example, the only things they ever really post about is when they're looking to fill positions. What they should be doing is saying, one of the biggest institutions for art in this country is not talking about ballet. It's not talking about set design. It's not talking about all those opportunities. It's only using it still as a job platform, which is a waste of the talent that they produce all the time on the other platforms they're using. Yeah.
That's true, and actually, it feeds in a little bit to Richard's comment here, which I'd like you to comment on.
Oh no,
your typical subject. I think what's missing is authenticity, people being themselves. I've got a viewpoint on this, which is that it's social media. Is anyone always themselves on social media, or is part of them an exaggeration of who they are? Is part of them a sort of, if they're in a selling situation? Yeah, I've got one glove on at the moment. I'm always me, but is it,
but are you, we've had this conversation,
is it really me, or is it actually just a persona of me? Is it the bit of me that I need to present to other people on this platform? Who knows? It's actually really, really difficult to tell authentic. What do we mean when we're talking authentic, Odessa?
You'd like me to answer this question?
Yeah.
I feel like you were doing the rant totally fine on your own. I think authenticity, the unfortunate thing, like so many words, is that it's been used as a buzzword and the meaning and the whole point of it has been lost, especially for the reasons that you said, when actually authenticity is now, it's an excuse to be more personal with your content, but you're still being expected to hold something back. And actually, in fairness, do we want people to be 100% authentic? No. We don't actually want people to be 100% themselves. We want them to still present that slightly filtered, take it or leave it, but slightly more appetizing part of their personality. We don't want people to be 100% themselves, because you only have to listen to somebody complaining about their situation, whether they've been made homeless or whether they've had a bad upbringing, or where those stories are really, really personal. We tend to turn around to that person and say, this isn't Facebook. This is not the platform to share it. And I think we can be authentic to who we are as business people, because behind every business is a person's dream. It's their ambition. So it always going to have a personal nature in it, and that shouldn't be taken from it. But it is a business platform, a professional platform first and foremost, which means that you should be who you are in business. And I don't think that means who you are in every single second by second of your life.
I've just responding to Jonathan with this. I just said, Jonathan, just get better broadband, mate. I
That's
don't know
not
what,
particularly helpful.
I don't know what those accountants are doing there, you know, but clearly they're not spending enough money on their broadband. 2 minutes late. Yeah, I know that is annoying. Yeah. Everybody else has caught up. I understand this perspective that Christina's saying. I see LinkedIn as a business place to connect with like-minded, being also a businesswoman as a musician on Instagram and Facebook. That's where she has more of her music. I'd say you're right, but I'd also say that there's a lot of people, your demographic might actually be more on LinkedIn. Just consider that as well. There's a lot of people on LinkedIn who actually want to hear a lot more about your music as well, because quite frankly, we're all sitting here all day long doing our work. And, you know, it's a bit of a refreshing change to hear about some music. So
I think at the heart of it, if it is a business where you are getting paid, you need to be on LinkedIn. And I think you are going to attract some people with your content and you're going to turn off others. And that is just the situation of life anyway. No one is going to appreciate and agree with everything you do and say all of the time. But I think there has to be that point where you do hold something back, because it is still a professional platform. And you need to be aware that the aim of being here is to generate leads, to generate business, to make yourself a credible business person that people then want to have a conversation further and invest in, or to trade services and things like that. And that still needs to be at the heart of what we're putting out there.
Yeah, I agree with Richard. We do all curate ourselves. But yeah, there does need to be a spark of us. I think still there is a massive divide on LinkedIn between those that are absolutely okay for, you know, themselves to be part and parcel of their business persona, and then there's those that go, well, hey, excuse me, but this is business, and so let's not laugh or joke or have any kind of fun. Please, can we be serious for a minute?
But you say that there are people that really appeals to. For example, you'll have an accountant who might be extremely serious, but actually in the nature of trusting an accountant with your finances, with them actually being responsible for what happens to you in the tax year, do you want them here having a joke and a laugh, or do we want to see them as credible people? And actually, what would then help you to choose one accountant from the other is going to be those little personal nuggets that they put in there. But what you really want to see is that they can do their job effectively and they take that seriously. You just have to have a little bit of your personality in there too.
Oh,
it's just the overshare.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because for me, because I think most accountants are quite boring, I'd actually look. I quite enjoy an accountant that's a little bit, you know, bit more fun. I mean, look, you've got to sit and talk numbers with these people. That is dull. That's dull as dishwater. If I'm going to go,
that's their hook. That's their hook. That's what will set them apart from other people who are competing in the same arena. If you've got a group of 5 accountants, how are you going to choose one? You're going to choose one based on the knowledge of their industry, probably how they present themselves in their appearance as well, if they're dressed up or not. And maybe that resonates with you as a person that you don't want them to be so serious, and in which case you'll gravitate. But I think you need enough of their business acumen in there. You need enough of their specific industry knowledge to make sure that they're not just here to have a laugh and a joke. That is a means of sorting them out from who may or may not resonate or get on with you better. But it has to be about what they can bring as a business. You still need to see that they're credible.
I agree, but I agree with Richard as well. Who wants to do business with someone who is antisocial? Not me. I don't. You know, goodness. If you come across as really, really boring, I'm sorry, I'm not doing business.
I like Christina's comment.
I think that's a perfect
professional authenticity.
Yeah, professional authenticity. Being authentic, but being professional at the same time, which kind of echoes Simon Stevens.
Should we just rename all of the guests?
How much time have I spent with Stephen that I get his name wrong? Right, you can tell it's Friday. Yeah, I get that as well. Yes, it's about showcasing your personality, but there is from some people there's too much personal stuff, and that can annoy people as well. I think here's the other thing as well. For me, it's about, dare I say it, it's about intelligence. and I don't mean IQ, I mean about intelligence of what's being put forward by people. For some people, what they're putting forward is not thought about at all. It's actually, they're not putting any intellect into their content. They're not putting any thought process into their content, and actually, therefore, it's devoid of anything that's worthwhile.
I don't think it's a lack of intellect, and I don't think it's just that they haven't put thought into it. I wonder if it's just a lack of depth, or if it's the fact that they feel like they're still posting in that sort of Facebook nature where they feel like they have to give an update for their week, but they haven't found or they haven't remembered that you need to help your audience understand why you're sharing it. What is the point of you sharing that particular piece of content? It isn't just an update like Twitter where you can say, yeah, I had a banana for breakfast. Who else has bananas? It's about, yes, this is about you. Yes, this is your week. But what have you learned? How have you professionally grown? What can I take away from it as somebody reading your content? It's the depth that's lacking. It's not, I don't have a problem with somebody telling me that they went to, some, really nice hotel in London and had a cream tea or something. That's fine. But tell me why you're sharing that. And that's not necessarily a thought or an intellect. I think it's just forgetting that there has to be a reason why.
I'm going to take this up. No, Jonathan, we're not about to mention grammar and spelling mistakes. Being dyslexic, I'm definitely not going to do that.
No.
However, right, just look at this, right? At this point, he says, grab your coat, you pull. Because I said that I'm looking for an accountant who's fun. But with this comment, Jonathan, work with me, I'm thick. That's the thing, isn't it? At the end of the day, I want an accountant who's clever, just fun. So are you going to retract that comment? Because I don't believe you are thick. If you're thick, I don't want to work with you if you're an accountant. So you've got to show your intellect. That's what I'm saying.
What are you doing here? Let the man just comment. He's 2 minutes behind everyone else.
I know. Well, I'm giving them 2 minutes, aren't I? So the point is, I want to work with an accountant who's really clever and can ultimately save me money. But I also want them to be someone that is personable and have fun, and that's really.
Well, that's what you want. I don't even necessarily.
But that's not what everybody wants.
I don't want a fun accountant.
No.
I don't trust if people are too. This sounds awful, doesn't it? If people are having too much fun, then they're not taking things seriously. And I like where it's something serious and important to me. I would like them to take it seriously as well. But that doesn't stop them from dressing in a particular way, or telling me about a hobby or something that attracts me to them as an individual. Because making connections is not simply about adding someone to your network. It's making a connection with them as a person as to why you want to see more of them.
Yeah. I do like Christina's coming up with some beauties today here. People misunderstand their gratification with intelligence.
Yeah.
That is a great book title. I'd like to see you write that book. That'd be fantastic.
That's the title of my autobiography. I love doing that. Do you like doing that? Where you hear like a really good phrase, or you've come out with this beautiful line and you're just like, that's the name of my autobiography. I've had all sorts over the years.
Odessa's going to write a post tomorrow called People Misunderstand.
I'm not, because I don't write on the weekend.
Oh, well, next week, people misunderstand their gratification with intelligence. The posts I struggle with are people showing their kids graduating from university.
Why? I want to know why that gets you going.
That's interesting. Let's hear a little bit more about that. I say smart thinking, Graham. The question we should be able to answer before posting anything on LinkedIn. I like having a fight to stay above this comment. I'm
not even attempting. I'm quite happy.
Even at a comment like this.
Just a pair of eyebrows.
Will this enhance my business prospects or detract from them? Over disclosing personal stuff that should, frankly, will distract. Yeah. So will being too prissy and over serious. No, it's all about good balance. Most of life is about good balance. Oh yeah. She's already writing her second book. What was your first book called, actually, Christina? We'd love to know what your first book was actually called. Help find my kid a job.
Well, I would like to know, if you had to write an autobiography, what would the title be?
If I was to write an biographical book,
what would you call it?
Oh, that's such a good question, isn't it? I would probably
I've got one that's just come straight to head.
Go on then.
For mine,
For you?
No, for me. I come up with, like I said, I come up with them all the time. At the moment, I'd feel like Don't Stand on My Grave would be quite a good autobiography.
I think I would call mine The Record of My Life.
I feel like that's too sensible.
No.
Don't get me wrong, it's beautiful, but I feel like the whole point of the exercise was to come up with something a bit more random.
Oh,
I feel like
bit,
you want to copyright that now. I'm just saying, because I think Christina will steal that from you.
What, The Record of My Life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because of my love of music, that sprung to mind. Oh goodness! I mean, it's such an important thing.
Life with pigeons.
A life with pigeons.
You could do yours, Tales from the Tent Sheet, something like that.
My favourite. My favourite accountant. Maybe I'll call it Before and After Coffee. Something like that. Yeah.
Interesting.
What's
a good
this?
question.
More Worth Than Money or Gold. It's a self-help book that is brilliant. Fantastic. I feel that maybe we should have some little
more books need to be on LinkedIn as well. People are starting to do it, but
books.
they're setting it up as a company page, and I take issue with that because company pages don't get the coverage and the reach that they should, because actually personal posts and personal accounts always do better. So I think there should be a function for authors where actually, not that you're selling it, but you can do promoting of publications on LinkedIn. That would be quite a useful feature.
You've just reminded me of something I found on LinkedIn, which is a bit of a misnomer, which is that there are certain companies on LinkedIn who shall remain nameless, who have got enormous amount of employees. And do you know why? Because they're not actually, those people aren't actually employed by them, right? But what it is that those people are using that company as their agency to find freelance work. This is your challenge, folks, for this week, is to see if you can find these companies on LinkedIn. But basically, these companies, I looked them up, 38,000 employees. I thought, what? You're employing 38,000 employees. But when you actually look into it, it's people that are using that company as a service to get freelance work.
It's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea, is it?
No, because company pages are innately dull, and people don't really tend to use them properly. They're never going to get the reach that they're supposed to. Company pages are more for the credibility of having your logo next to your current experience and position, rather than actually talking about your company and content that people will willingly receive, apart from innocent smoothies.
I've seen this. People pretend to be an employee. I want to know, have we seen people pretend to be an accountant on LinkedIn, Jonathan? I just thought I'd like to know whether you've seen that at all. You know, maybe.
Anyone with Xero or other software is available, or with QuickBooks or anything else, other software is also available, could then turn around and say that they're an accountant. And this is a big issue in the book that I read for by an accountant, was that anybody who's got that software says they could be classed as an accountant. But if you work that hard to get these qualifications and you submit yourself to the rush of every January doing people's tax returns, you have the right to wear the accountancy hat, and no one should take that from you, because that is a really pretty bad part of the role.
Here's a good one for you. Another contentious issue, just to finish off today. Do people feel that there are too many LinkedIn coaches on LinkedIn? I mean, you don't really see the same sort of thing on other platforms, do you? I'm just saying you don't really see it in quite the same way, right? No. They are there in other platforms, but on LinkedIn, it's all over the shop, isn't it? LinkedIn coaches.
The thing is, I think what that actually just expresses to us is just how lost people are on LinkedIn. The other platforms are clearly more intuitive, or actually there are far fewer expectations of what you're going to get out of it. But people know that you can make money from LinkedIn. You can grow a business on what you find here. Therefore, it makes sense to teach people how to do it properly, because there is so much value in it. And when we talk about it being stuffy here and all the negative people that, things that people habitually say, actually, the reason that why people are able to make money off it is because there is so much value here. You just need to learn how to do it properly.
Yeah, but and here's where I'm going to be contentious, because that's what we're here for. Is that
you do like to do it?
You're the sensible
You take
one.
great fun.
I just want to play devil's advocate.
I hate that.
Is it right to tell people how to do it? That's that's one of the questions I'm going to ask. Is it right to tell people how to do LinkedIn? Because
is that what they're doing though?
Well, I don't know. I'm just asking that question.
Okay.
If
feel free, anybody in the audience, to answer.
Absolutely. Is there not a disparity between the fact that on the one hand we're telling people to be authentic, and on the other hand we're telling them what colour socks to wear? I'm just saying.
But we're not, though. That's not what a LinkedIn coach does.
Well, is it or isn't it?
Right. So it depends obviously on who the person is and what kind of, but when you actually look, the whole point of the platform is to be giving value back and to help people do better at what they do by understanding it. And what?
Richard's comment. I tried to book a LinkedIn coach the other day. Must have got the wrong number because 57-seater turned up for a day trip to Blackpool. Don't instruct people, inspire people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But there is a formula. We all know there is a formula to make things work and to make things work well. So, for example, your coach might actually, and I use the term coach loosely because I think people have just got lack imagination for and lack specificity for what they actually do, and it's just easier to say that you're a coach. But things like teaching people the importance of having a banner, or teaching people about how to make your page look more attractive, or how to construct content and how to use the platform better and why you should be doing it. That is the only thing that LinkedIn do not do. They allow you to create an account. There's no FAQ. There's no let me show you around. There's not this is what that button does. A lot of other platforms will give you a kind of tutorial, and you can't advance to using it until you've had that step-by-step kind of wizard type thing going on. LinkedIn, you're allowed to set it up, and it is really easy to feel lost. We take for granted that we've been using it for years. And people then struggle with, how do I get the mechanism from creating content to then actually turning those into leads? And again, that is a skill. And anywhere that requires a skill in order to do something well means that you can have a coach to help you develop that skill.
Yes. Are we coming back to what is beautiful? Everything's beautiful in my world. So yeah. Agreed. I agree with that. There is no explanation of the mechanics, and I think it is useful to go through the mechanics. But I go back to what Christina said before, which I think is important. Inspiring people is great. So going through the mechanics with people, I think, so if you can find yourself a good coach who will take you through the mechanics and then inspire you to be you on the platform and do it your way, I think that is great.
But that's also the definition of a good coach. Is the good coach going to, it's the whole teach a fish thing, isn't it? Are you doing it for them in that you're telling them, this is what you need to write in this fashion, that's going to get you X amount of likes and reactions and views and stuff like that? Or are you teaching them, this is how you construct a post, see what happens? It's that whole difference of, are you actually teaching them to use it effectively, or you're effectively doing it for them and writing it for them and telling them everything they need to do on like a tick sheet in order to make a perfectly performing post. And some people rely on being told too heavily. Some people don't allow for interpretation. They don't want to have a try and see and give it 3 months before they get a following. They want to make money now. And so they want to be told by somebody how to do that most effectively. And there's nothing particularly wrong in that either. Yeah. If you are a CEO and you've got targets and you've got to make this, this figure, or you've got to get this many leads, you want to know how to do that as quickly as possible, because you don't have the finances and you don't have the time to wait for it to build on its own. Does that mean we agree with paying for followers? No. Does that mean that we agree with, going into pods? No. But it does mean that to some extent, if somebody can save you the hassle of learning and getting it wrong and being 3 steps behind your competitors, then I think that there's definitely value in offering that as a service.
Well, and it's where we come in as well, isn't it? At the end, that's the point.
Not that we're allowed to sell or talk about our services here.
No, but just so people know, that's where we come in.
We write content.
You could look. You can go and look up what we do. You get the gist of what we do anyway. There you go. How would Jimi Hendrix have used LinkedIn? That's the only question, really. It is. That is the only question. For start, left-handed. Isn't that right,
Left-handed
Tom?
people are winners.
Tom, totally left-handed, and with his tongue. Definitely.
I don't know what's happened here. I felt like that just took a bit of a turn. That was actually quite an interesting question.
Anybody that knows Jimi Hendrix will know that he played the guitar with his tongue. There you go.
Okay.
Right. So he would have been tapping on his keyboard with his tongue as well. He spent ages getting that dexterity there.
Okay. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I'm really glad that you turned up today, Graham, for that nugget alone.
There we go. And with that, folks, we've virtually reached the end of our time today. What subjects would you like to see us cover next week on next week's show? Do put them in the comments now. If it's to do with other uses of bodily parts, we'd probably avoid that. Certainly anything to do with LinkedIn, marketing, any of those things, we will quite happily cover those. But what are you looking like that for? There are
moments where I
wonder where it's going to go.
I know that you're going to say something contentious. That's not the problem. It's just how far are you willing to go?
Yeah, they are. Hendrix would have chopped it down with the back of his hand as the voodoo child he was. Yeah, he would have done. Absolutely. All along the Watchtower. There we go. Can anybody else get a decent Jimi Hendrix quote in here?
I don't think you've got time.
I don't. Dealing with 2-minute delays. That's the beauty for Jonathan. Even after we've gone, we're still beyond for Jonathan.
You make that sound really creepy.
That's wonderful. I like to feel that that's how we like to leave everybody that we approach in our lives. But that's a really good one.
I need to sample it before I can give a next week. Let's do that.
I should be having a burger from said place at the weekend.
Hang on, do you get a chicken? It's not a chicken Big Mac. Are we talking Chicken Legend or are we talking Big Mac? Yeah, they're two separate sandwiches. Come on, Stephen.
I think he's got himself a little tongue tied there. Back to the Future. Yeah, we can discuss.
Literally, please come up with an agenda. Otherwise, we just sit here talking because this is what we've decided is the brand strategy that we're going to do more LinkedIn Live. So if you don't give us something to talk about, we will just chat.
Back to the Future. Purple haze all around my head. LinkedIn polls are making me sad. There we go. So Back to the Future. We could talk about Back to the Future. We could talk about, have we gone back over the last 2 years, or have we, how have we progressed going
Chicken
forward?
Big Mac is new.
Is that a thing?
Well, I mean, he does frequent McDonald's far more than both of us do, being as we've been on diets, and he always seems to comment from a McDonald's somewhere in this country. So he is the man to ask. I now don't question his. I would never question you again on McDonald's, Stephen.
I am now really torn as to at the weekend, do I try the McPlant or the Chicken Big Mac?
You're going to have to try both, otherwise you can't answer.
I can't eat both all at once.
No, do it. You've got a week, Graham. It's two separate visits.
I'd never go to said place 2 times in a week. That.
Well, you might have to, because the challenge gauntlet has been thrown down. He wants us to have a conversation about this.
Okay. When the love of power gets replaced by the power of love, then polls will be banned. Let me just think about that for a minute. When the love of power gets replaced by the power of love. So there's
I don't know. I think that's a topic for next week. I think we're going to have to sit on that one.
That one might bring that back. I just wonder whether that is when he refers to the power of love. Does he mean that 80s rock ballad? Because that is quite something.
That is a terrible song.
That was quite something. Yes. How about this? If LinkedIn ultimately will go the same way, Zuckerberg and
you've just asked everybody what they want us to talk about next week. If you talk about this all now, there's nothing to talk about next week.
I'm not going to talk about it all now. I'm just bringing up the topics. Yeah, I'm just reading.
It's good to see that you still got reading skills.
Reading and absorbing, seeing which one people might want to bring in next week.
And on that note,
yes, have a great week. Have a great weekend, actually, because we've had the week. Have a great weekend, everyone. I hope you're doing something fun and exciting at the weekend. Yeah. That's a Jimi Hendrix quote. Thank you very much, Tom. And we'll see you again same sort of
Next
time.
week.
Next Friday, every Friday. Invite your friends. Let's get a few more people along. The more the merrier. And we'll just be here to talk about your favourite subjects. Next week we might bring back the pigeon observation slot as well, because I think that would be good.
Thanks, Richard.
And
Thank you
also,
everyone for coming.
I'd also like to know, anyone up for a game next week as well? Anyone up for a game?
And on that note, for the third and final time,
Goodbye.
bye.
Bye.